to my life wherever you are. Why my phone always so dark? Jesus, this is sad. Phone darky. Alright. Powerful. Why it's so dark? Okay guys, welcome to my live. Welcome to another of my live, guys. Yes, wherever you're watching from. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are. Yes, guys, thank you for everything that you have done and still doing. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the new subscribers, and thank you for the views. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Right? Yes, I do. So I hope wherever you are that you are doing well and you are in the best of health. Right? My screen is so dark. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the time of the day or what. We can get one phone if somebody can donate one phone to me. But our newborn phone is supposed to look like that, so no one junction. Alright, so today I will start talking about starting an agricultural business. Well, it could be any business, but agriculture mainly. No man, something wrong with your phone. Why it's so dark? Anyway, I'm gonna move right along because I don't have the whole day and I will not have the whole day. So, alright, so I will talking or I will touching on starting a agricultural business. Alright, so when starting a business, any business at all, you have to have the basic idea of what it is you're doing, or you should have prior going to into the business. You should know what you are doing, or well, some persons they start business and they don't have any idea of what the business is about, or about what they have some idea of what they want the business, so they begin to draft their plan, their layout, and they give the business a name. They tell the start to predict the type of product that the business will offer, and your blueprint, right? You want to make sure that your business and our next business doesn't have the same name because it can cause a problem, it can create problem. And you want to make sure that you doesn't have a lot of competitors or a lot of competition, because where there are competition, then customers will decide where they want to buy their product or which product is best suitable for them. So you don't want it in a competition that's so stiff that you the person doesn't make or gain from your business. So when starting a business, the first thing you should do is to do a research on the type of business that you are planning to do, right? And also you should do a research on the product that you are planning to sell or to produce. The reason for doing a research is because you don't want to produce a product and then there's no market for the product, right? Or you don't want to start a business where there is no customer for that business, right? So you want to make sure you're in the right area at the right time with the right people. Because, for example, if you live in the country, right, most persons will maybe do farming if they are in the country, right? If you are in the town, you would do more business that, because in the city would be a more faster or more developed environment. So no one would want to think of doing farming. Well, they could do farming in the city, but it wouldn't be that productive as if you were doing farming in the country, because one of the reasons are there's no space to do that type of extensive farming in the city. But if you are in the country, then you could have that amount of land to do whatever. Because sometimes when you have to cloak up the things, it doesn't really make any sense. And then yes, you want to have, you make sure you have the produce and the right amount of produce, and in the right size and the quality and the shape and the look, and yeah, the list goes on, the right variety and so forth. You don't want to have customers complaining about your produce. So when you're starting a business, you have to do a research on the things that persons need at the time, and then you will go towards doing that business, right? For instance, you could maybe think about doing a business, for example, doing hair in the town area, because one reason is because persons in the town area, they are working people and maybe they don't have the time to do their hair. So then you could maybe go around to find out how many persons want their hair to do, and you ask them like the style that they willing to have, and then you negotiate a price with the person to say, for instance, say, okay, this is the type of hair you want, the hairstyle, so this is the price that go with the type of hairstyle. But as we are talking about farming or agriculture, then everybody have to eat, right? Everybody have to eat. So then there again, you don't really have to do a survey to find out if you should do agriculture, because there and then you know that persons need agriculture, so they need food to eat, they need clothes to wear, and they need money to spend, and they want land to use, houses to build. And agriculture is basically almost everything. Agriculture is life, right? If you don't, you have and the air that we breathe and the water, so that basically is life. So you don't really have to go and do a survey on agriculture itself, but you could do a survey on the type of agriculture that you could be doing, right? So maybe you're a person who has a lot of land, so you could do a survey. Or if you want to purchase some land because maybe they are selling the land, for example, bauxite. They would like to mine the land, or sometimes they grow on and they buy land, because they know that when they buy the land, especially in the country area, because they can't really mine in the town area because that would be a lot of problem, and then it would affect most business. So there and then you couldn't really do mining, so they choose like in the country area, way up in the cockpit or so, where they can do their mining or do agriculture. So if you're a person who want to invest in land, and yes, I would encourage person to invest in land, because the land, I never hear of the value of the land decreasing. Only way it might decrease unless you remove something from the land, or you add something, like for example, you might add building, or for example, you might add grave or so, then that would decrease the value of the land. But if you're going to do farming on the land, when you buy the land, then chances are, well, the produce might not always come, but you can guarantee that at some point that the crops will come, right? Based on the type of work that you put in. And also, if you think about maybe doing livestock, you could get benefit from livestock if there are no other factors affecting the whatever that you are putting out at that time, because there can be a lot of problem out there, but you have to, you as an individual, when entering into a business, you have to know the pros and the cons and the do's and the don'ts, and you have to go around to find out certain things so that you can be more aware. So if you're a person who's buying land, especially in the country area, and you know that it could be beneficial because you can maybe develop it over a period of time. You could maybe develop the land, right? And you could maybe start an housing scheme, right? Even though there's no one there, then you could maybe develop the land to do business. Then there again, when people realize that the environment is being developed, then they will want to move into that area because there will be job, there will be food, there will be water, and all the necessities that they need in life to go on, right? So agriculture is basically the art and science of cultivating the soil, growing crops, and rearing livestock. So agriculture is basically the growing of crop and rearing of livestock. That is how simple agriculture is. But agriculture can be very technical at times. It depends on the aspect that you are looking at and what it is you are looking at, right? So there are five main areas of agriculture. You have the agriculture engineering, you have the agriculture economics, you have animal husbandry, you have horticulture, and you have agronomic. So, and these areas can be broken down into smaller areas, right? So there are so many career choices in agriculture. So don't let anyone tell you that don't do agriculture because you won't get any job or anything from agriculture. It's up to you, the individual, what you want out of agriculture, because persons are doing agriculture and they don't even know that they are doing agriculture because they don't have any knowledge on what agriculture basically is, because there's no one there to educate them on the benefits and the areas in agriculture. All right, so some of the careers in agriculture are, you have the agriculture engineer, you have agricultural economics, you have farm manager, you have soil and plant scientist, you have conservation planner, commercial you have commercial horticulturist, you have horticulture salesperson, you have farmer, teacher, botanist, plant nursery, extension officer, you have food scientist, wildlife biologist, you have agricultural lawyer. So there are so many areas in agriculture in which persons can pursue career in, but as individual or as youngsters growing up, and we hear persons saying agriculture, or maybe our foreparents saying agriculture, we just see them with this O and this machete, and we just think that agriculture is basically just like going to the farm, digging a old planting seed. No, it is more than that. It's all, you have to take care of the seed, you have to water the seed, you have to maintain the seed, you have to make sure that these seedlings are free from pests and disease, and the list goes on and on. So agriculture is not only just doing crops. If you don't like crops, you can do your livestock. If you don't like livestock, you can go into machine. If you don't like machine, you can go into building. If you don't like building, you can go into the sciences. You can go into doctor, you can go into lawyer. So it's very wide out there. Some of the career choices that are in agriculture. So don't let anyone tell you that don't do agriculture because agriculture is not this and agriculture is not this. And they add all those negative words behind agriculture or in front of agriculture. It's up to you, the individual, what you want out of agriculture that you will get out of agriculture. Because I know there are families out there who are pursuing agriculture, and it's only agriculture that they pursue, and that's agriculture that they do. It's help to support their family and help to support the community and also worldwide. WTO, World Trade Organization. Right, so agriculture is large. Everywhere you go, there will be agriculture because persons, they have to eat and they have to wear clothes and they have to live somewhere. So if you're going to agriculture, there's no way you're gonna lose out of agriculture because agriculture is very wide. And the good thing about doing an agriculture is you can always operate your own business. You can always be your own boss. And when you are your own boss, you don't have it. There's no one to tell you. Like for instance, what time you're supposed to go to work, what time you're supposed to leave work, what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to do. When you are operating your own business, you come to work, you come at your own leisure, operate your own at your own time, and you can also employ persons, right? And if the business turn out good for you, then you can always improve or extend your business. But if you realize that you start something in agriculture and you realize that it's not working, you can always change to something else in agriculture, right? Or you can always move to a different location because there are lots of land, especially in Jamaica. Persons leave in country to go to town because they think that living in town, they will have a better life. No, when you live in town, you have to work. Just like because it's like when you're in the country, like you can go to your neighbor and they might give you something to eat. When you're in town, nobody now take up nothing and give you to eat, right? And there is not enough space there for you to do the type of farming, or you have to do your hustling, and hustling is what you can do at that time, right? Even though the town area is fast, but then again, you don't know what are some of the things that are in the things that person produce. So when you produce your own food, then you will have an idea of what you are eating, and also you will eat more healthier, and you maybe or you might live longer. So it's up to you the individual what is it you want out of agriculture, because agriculture is a good thing to have. All right, so when starting an agricultural business, there are some things that you should know, right? You should have land and you should have capital. All right, so land is basically land itself, and capital is basically the money that you have to invest in the land, right? All right, when you live in the country, if you don't have any land, you can maybe just ask somebody for maybe a piece of their land, or you can maybe lease it. And when you lease land here in Jamaica, the lease is not that expensive. Sometimes some person maybe pay $1,000 for the year, $2,000 for the year. It all depends where you are. And some of these persons who lease the land, sometimes they don't really want anything, and sometimes they can't manage the land that they lease. So it was best for them to lease the land. And sometimes they don't really want anything from you, because I am assuming that most, not to say I must give the people anything, but most of the time these persons, they already make it in life. So the land is there idling, no one not using it, because you have some persons out there, they lease people land and they don't want to pay for it, whether the person have it or not. Right? When you lease people land, the mosquito then come out. Right? The person might give you a next piece of land to maybe use, but when you lease the land and you don't pay for the land, then you and the person is going in contention, and then sooner or later the person will tell you that you're supposed to leave because you're not paying any lease for the land. And most of the time the lease is not expensive. Most of the time when a person lease land in Jamaica is because maybe they want maybe that money to pay for the taxes, and depends on the size of the land. Taxes are not very expensive, right? But for instance, when you lease the land and you're not giving the landowner any money, then that person will have to go into their own pocket to take out money out of their own pocket or their account just to pay for something that you are using, and you are using it and you're not giving the owner anything. So sometimes you the individual make it bad for other persons who really want land to use, who doesn't have any land, right? Alright, so you're supposed to have land and capital. So it depends on the area in agriculture that you are doing. You're gonna need, like, certain amount of money. And there are companies in Jamaica, example for example, rather, there are certain times of the year, or maybe your MP or whoever, you know. Sometimes you have persons who sometimes they might give away seedling, depends on the seedling, and they might give away fertilizer. Sometimes they might give away chicken. So it depends on the type of farmer that you are. If you are doing crops or if you are doing livestock, then you can get, like, for example, the seeds or the chicken. Or if for instance, if you don't start a business as yet, and you go to them and you say that you want to start a business, then they will ask you, if for instance, if you have any land to put the things on, right? Because you have to have land to put to the agriculture. We are not just talking about this container farm, we're talking about real farming, right? So if you have space where you could maybe um build a coop. We call it coop. Like where you put the chicken, build a coop for the chicken, then you could get the chicken. But if you don't have anywhere to put the chicken, then where are you going to put the chicken? So those are some of the things when they, for instance, giving away things in agriculture, they will ask you, do you have any land? Right? And sometimes when you start a business, it's not gonna be perfect at first, but you have to try. And sometimes if you get some chicken, if you get some chicken and you start to rear the chicken, especially now the time is hot, so you realize that some of the chicken might die, right? And even sometimes when we go to pick up the chicken and to transport them, sometimes they get squeezed up in the box, and sometimes you might have fatality, in the box. So you call that loss. So sometimes when you might go back to the store, when you go back to the store, sometimes they might replace it. Depends. Sometimes they will not give it to you. Depends on the type of farm store, right? Right. So let us look at the positive parts of agriculture. So when persons know that you are interested in certain things, then they will make the effort to meet you pathway, and you have to, yeah, you the individual have to make the effort also to meet the individual somewhere too, right? Because you cannot do farming and you don't have the resources, right? So you have some farmers, especially in the country, if they know that you are not working and you say to them that you would like to come and do a day's work with you, most of them, if not all of them, they will show you the technique used in agriculture, because when those farmers pass on, you're gonna still need persons there teaching the younger folks these techniques and these skills in agriculture. Welcome to my life, guys. Welcome to my life. Alright, so today I'll be talking about starting a business in agriculture. Holy mother. Alright, so I was at what are some of the things you should have when starting a business? Alright, so we were talking about land and capital, right? And as I was saying that there are land almost everywhere, right? Correct, gone. Correct, gone. Sing, come out here soon now. Come back. Oh God. Okay, guys, welcome back. Welcome back, y'all. Hey, people, what's up? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Hey, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Okay, so we are looking at starting an agricultural business, right? So it's not hard to start any agricultural business, right? Come on, go on inside. Alright, so if you are going into flowers, right? So especially when you live in the country, right? You can maybe go up into the wilds where you find all these beautiful. What was the name again? These cactus and these expensive plants. I can't remember the name of the plant now. Where persons they go up in the hills and they find these plants and they take them down and they sell it very expensive. But when we are in the country, right? You can go to your neighbor house and ask them for a piece of flowers and they will give it to you. And you can do your propagation right there and then. Whether you're doing your stem cutting, your tip cutting, your leaf cutting. So from one piece of plant you can get up to a million piece of plant from just one plant, right? So when you get, for instance, for instance, you get a piece of plant, right? And it's not easy because sometimes you might plant the the, the the cuttings and it might not catch well, and next time you might plant it and you catch. Some person in your hand might agree with it, right? And then if it's dry time, some person might not have the water to water it, right? So you have to think about that. You have to think about where you're gonna get water to do agriculture, because agriculture most of the time it takes a lot of water. Even for the livestock they need water. So when you're doing business, you have to make sure that you have water to give to the plants and to the animal. But there are some crops that doesn't require a lot of water, like for instance the melon and the pumpkin, right? And maybe yam. Yam is like maybe a year or 9 months to 1 year it take to grow. And cocoa, people call it cocoa. Those doesn't take a lot of water, so it depends on the type of plant that you are growing. But what I'm saying is that if you get a piece of flowers, right, and you propagate that plant, from that plant you can make millions of dollars from plant. Whereas if you have consumers who will buy the plant, right? So that's why I say you need to do a survey on the type of the product that individual or consumer need, because you don't want to start a business and there is no consumer to buy. But even then, no, even no, back in the days you didn't have any platform or anywhere to advertise your product, but now we have social media. You can go maybe on your Instagram or any one of the social media pages and advertise your product. So if for instance the persons in your community doesn't buy that product, then maybe you might have persons online who want that product too to buy. The only problem is that maybe you might have difficulty in transporting, the whatever it is that you're producing from where you produce to where the person wants it to buy, if you're following what I'm saying. So in every business that you are doing, you should do a research to find out the type of person who wants certain things, because especially sometimes when we listen news and we hear the farmers complaining that they produce X amount of tomato or whatever the crop is that they produce, and they don't have anybody to purchase it, and the crops are in the field rotting, right? That is one problem farmers might have when they are producing certain crops. Yes. Tell her, Miss Uncle. Brother Kyle and him just why in a heavy spotlight. Him just why him out here talking, come out here. Come come talk. So Miss Who give me time to come talk. So Miss Who make one podium for come talk. Alright. Alright, so what are some of the things that persons should know about agriculture, right? So when doing agriculture, you should know the planting time for some crop, right? When I was much younger, I hear they say that if you plant the crop in the moonshine, then insect or pests will eat it out, right? And they say the best time, and they say if you cut, like if you're doing the yam, and you have to cut the stick to to we call it jam. We jam the yam stick, right? When you cut the stick and to allow the vine of the yam to run on it, they say that if you cut the yam stick in the moonshine, then insect will eat the stick. So there are certain time of the month that you cannot do farming. They say that the best time is to plant is dark night. Dark night. That's what I hear. Maybe other person will maybe give their opinion on what time. So you have to know what is the planting season to plant certain crop so that you can get certain crop, because you can't just plant certain crops just like that and expect to get it. So when you as a young farmer doing certain things, you have to make sure that you do your research, especially you can link up with other persons who are doing agriculture so that they can educate you on some of the things that they know. To my understanding, the farmers, especially the old time farmers, they they have hands on. They have hands on. And what I mean by hands on is something that they can tell you out of their head. They don't really have any written. They don't have any theory of farming itself, But we are maybe the younger generation coming up now. We have to go to school to get certified to do for instance agriculture, right? So when we go to school to do, for instance, agriculture, we don't have that practical aspect. They are they give us practical enough, but it is not enough to go out there in the world of work. So when we go out there in the world of work, we still want persons on the job to train us as individual coming up, because even sometimes when we go to school and we leave school, even when we have our bachelor's or PhD or whatever, we still have to have some prior knowledge to what we are doing, because if we don't have any prior knowledge, um we won't know what we are doing. And even when we have prior knowledge going on in the workforce, there we also each in the industry have its own policies that they make about whatever that is that they do. So even though we might learn at school, so this is what the policies are. So each industry has its own policy of what it is that they require from you. So there again, when you go to school and you get this type of learning, when you enter into the industry, you might get a different level of education. Then you might say to yourself, I don't understand why they teach us this, but when we come to the world of work, we get a different understanding. Yes, some person might say that when they go to school, and you pay so much money to get this level of education, and then you have to go into the workforce and they have to retrain you, and you ask, why do you go to the school? Well, I don't know, but I think that you go to school just to get the certificate, right? Because they cannot cluster, or they cannot chuck everything in the courses for you to learn. So they give you that kind of theory or theoretic. So you have the theory in your head, but you don't have the plan that you can see. So when you go to the workplace, you get the kind of hands-on, because they cannot teach you everything in school, because it will take so much time, and then you would maybe still in school after several years. So that's why when you go to school, they give an X amount of years to do certain things, but yet still, when you go on the job, you still have to be retrained. You following me? Alright. So we are looking at starting a business in agriculture, guys. Welcome to my life. Don't be afraid to give me your opinion, because maybe what I think is not maybe what you think, and maybe my opinion is not basically what you think, and maybe you might have more knowledge more than me, or you maybe have more experience more than me, so you can give me your opinion on what you think. Don't just sit there. Don't just sit there and just listen to me. Feel free to give me your opinion. 1 minute there, because I don't know. I don't know. Oh, merciful. idea. I'm not tired to walk up and down. To be honest, I don't want to walk up and down, but you just have to just do what you have to do. Alright, so sometimes persons would like to venture in. Kylan! Come off our bicycle! Alright, so sometimes persons. Oh God, my foot. Sometimes persons would like to venture into certain business, but because of the negative, ideas that person get about certain things, then sometimes they get turn off. They don't get that kind of encouragement or that type of push, you know, to do certain business, right? But sometimes, with the right idea and the right persons to guide you along the way, you might see that kind of difference there. The difference that the difference that you didn't that even know that exists, right? So sometimes because persons don't really have the knowledge about certain things, they tend to give you their opinion of what they think. But sometimes maybe their opinion is not always the best opinion, right? Oh Jesus. I wonder I wonder if 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 I wonder if. Alright, so some crops can be planted so like certain seasons. So you have to know when is the best crop to plant certain crop, especially the crop that they call seasonal crop, the crush cash crop. Alright, so as I said before, some crops they take a lot of water, and some crops they don't need any water. So if you plant a crop, for example, some crop like maybe dashing or the root crops, most of them they cannot take a lot of water. Potato and so they cannot take a lot of water. When they take a lot of water, sometimes they will rot. So you have to know the time when you plant certain crops. So like if you're planting cash crop, like for instance sweet pepper, right? You plant it when you know that if it's require water. You plant it when it's rain, especially like for example in Jamaica. The rain in the hurricane season this is start from I think was it April to November. Yes. So sometime between maybe April April to maybe June, you'll have a lot of rainfall, right? And then in the summer it's very hot. In the summer it's very hot, so you will not get that amount of water in the summer. So April, May, June, that's 3 months. And like maybe the cucumber and the cabbage and the lettuce also, those cash crop, they could take maybe 3 to 4 months to grow, right? It take 3 to 4 months to grow. So you could maybe plant them April to June. So that is one season you could plant the crop. And then from September, August, September, September, October, November, you could plant a next cash crop, right? So you have to know the season and the time when you're supposed to plant the crop, right? For example, if you're planting cash crop like maybe the sweet pepper and the cabbage and so like the cabbage and the lettuce, like those, you know you have to transplant them. Well, most person transplant them. You throw them in your seedling or in a seed tray or in a seed bed, and after the seed turn into seedling, you transplant them from the seed bed or the seed tray into the field, right? You transplant them into the field. So after you transplant the plants, the crops, you have to water the crops, right? So if you plant those cash crop in maybe in January, February, March, especially January and February, when the time is dry, and you plant those crops, then you are going to dry up because you don't have the water. Well, if you don't have the water, because you have some farmers, they make sure they set the thing where they can have enough water to water their crop right through the year. But for some farmers, they don't have that resources to water their crop right through the year. So I would encourage plant the crop based on the season that they are in, right? For instance, a pumpkin. But even though some plant they don't need a lot of water, but they need water in order to come to perfection, right? So if for instance, I'm so sorry I don't have any pictures. I'm gonna start take picture. I so for instance, if it's dry time and the plants are not getting any water, then you will realize that the plants are much smaller and the plant will wilt, especially the pumpkin, it turn yellow, and the peppers also they will ripe, and they look like they are fit, but they are not fit. And some plant they will look withered, because they are not getting enough water. But when you have the right amount of water, then the plant will flourish and they will look healthy. And everybody want this big crop, this big sweet pepper, and this big this and this big that. But most of the time, the big this and the big this and the big that is not always the best, because some of these farmers, they can use the chemical. They use the chemical on the plant, and then you as a consumer, if for instance, when you buy these plants and maybe you don't wash it before you eat it, then it can, you know, be toxic to your body. Most farmers not gonna tell you that, oh, I just spray my crop or whatever. Then so, what would you say? Hello. After me not even know if them come or work. Trying not study. That's a thing. But if they, I love it. I love it. Dig out what? After me not take them and dig out no more outside. They must sit down dig it. They must say go put concrete now. I don't know what them a plan for doing because them a wait there. I don't know what they up to. Then they not have a whole week. They have a whole week, you know. And if they went start early Saturday, they could have done what they do and they not come nowhere yesterday. I don't know if they come nowhere today. They must know what they are doing now. But if anything of them as she them free call because as she give them job. So if they come to work, me not go give them the material. Like that's how what's so hard in that day. So yeah, they must know what they are No, no, it kind of drizzle today, but it ain't really fall. It's kind of still look dark, but enough rain. Rain fall almost every evening down here. Yeah. Oh, but Jesus. Remember which part? Yes. Alright, this season. Yeah, talk about this season. You have to know the season. When Caroline, one in years ago on your truck. Anyway. So you're supposed to know the season when you can plant certain crop, right? So if not, you are going to be loose because you're not going to get the kind of income that the amount of money that you put into the business. After you realize and you reap the crop, you're going to realize that you have lost because you spend more than you gain, right? So you have to know how to write your profit and your loss sheet, right? And your statement and all these things, right? Alright, so you don't want to in a business where you spend more than you're gaining, then you would lose in that case. But if you are in a business where you are gaining more than you spend, then you would want to stay in that business. Alright, so you will also have to study the supply and demand curve. Alright, so if a crop is in demand and you are the only person who has that crop, then you will be right in a better condition when the demand shift to your right. But if the supplier is more than the demand, then the curve will shift to your left, right? So you don't want to be in an industry or in an area where you have persons selling the same product, then the price of the quantity is going to drop. The price of the good is going to drop because everybody is producing the same produce, right? But if you are in a business where there's a demand, for example, you have certain season where you can't maybe get garlic, you can't get tomato, right? When it rain and you have tomato rot, then there will be a shortage of tomato, right? You have tomato, scallion, garlic, and cabbage. I would just say stick to those, right? Some yam too, cause some I think I must go $4 for yam, $4 pound for yam, or $3.50 for yam. Right, so you have some time when you have tomato for $4. I remember I think one time you did get the price went so high. I think it was about $800 per pound must have fit tomato and then and sweet pepper and so. Only the persons who had it could afford it. Right? So you have to study the demand and the supply curve so you to know, for instance, when you're supposed to plant certain crop. So you can know when to plant it because the aim of doing business is to benefit from the business because nobody wants to do business where they are losing out, right? So the aim of doing the business is to benefit, right? Alright, so the more the demand, the higher the price will go. So the less the demand, then the price will drop, right? Also, you have to know the type of chemical used, right? The type of insect, the type of pest affecting your plants and your animal, right? So you have your herbicide, you know, so you use it to apply to your weed or your herb, right? And it depends if it's systemic or what. And you have your pesticides that you use to apply to the pest. And you have to do, if it's a sucking or a piercing insect, or it's a biting or a chewing insect. So all of those you have to know. But sometimes, if you don't know, you have some farmers who are out there who is willing to give their opinion or offer some, you know, to small farmers out there. So you have to know what is the type of disease affecting the plant. So you know if it's a fungus or whatever. So you can buy the kind of treatment that it needs to apply to the crop. So all these things you have to know before starting a business, because you don't want to go into the business and you realize you are into the business and you don't know what to do because you don't have any idea and there's no one there to say, all right, this is what you do or that is what you do, right? All right, so you have to know the different types of soil type. So there are four main types of soil, especially when you're doing in crops, right? Even when you're doing livestock, you have to know, for instance, the type of meat that persons eat, right? Or the one that is easier to rear in a shorter period of time. For example, poultry. Most farmers will stick to poultry because it takes 6 weeks to produce and it take less space, and most consumers they eat chicken, right? Some persons will not eat pork or goat, but maybe most persons will eat chicken. So you'll have maybe more farmers producing chicken or maybe fish. You don't really have a lot of fish farmers, but you know you might have persons who like fish. So when you're going to for instance a livestock or whatever, into livestock you have to find out, for instance, in the population that you are in, does the population eat fish? Do they eat chicken? Do they eat pork? Do they eat mutton? Do they eat chevron? Do they eat rabbit meat? I don't know what's the name of rabbit meat. Yes, and then the next thing again, we have to know the type of meat that the animal produce, because you can't tell the people them say you have mutton when a chevron you have, cause mutton no come from goat, you know. Mutton come from sheep. But we as Jamaican, we used to the mutton come from goat. So when we go there and say mutton, no, buy a chevron, no, buy. But yeah, we are in Jamaica, so we just say yeah. So we have to know that what it is that the demand for certain things, so you can get value for your money. For example, if there are lots of farmer around the place rearing chicken, right? If 10 somebody rearing chicken and they're rearing the chicken at the same time, and they, for instance, after you slaughter the chicken and so you realize that so have chicken over there, so him have chicken over there, so him have chicken over there, so then you go find persons choosing who they want to buy the chicken from, right? And also maybe you might have your chicken stand up on you because everybody buying chicken, because everybody have chicken, and also the price is going to drop because everybody have chicken now and they want a chicken to sell. Them are gonna sell it as a lesser price, so you're gonna realize that you're selling the chicken for less than that you pay to rear the chicken, right? Because you have to, after you buy the chicken, you have to buy the sawdust, you have to sanitize the pen. If you don't have water, you have to buy water. You have to buy feed, you have to buy feed, you have to buy feeding pan if you never have all of that. So when you realize the total amount of money that you spend, you invest to rear your chicken, and you realize that you have to sell it back, and then you have to pay for transport and all this thing. So you realize that you have to spend less, you're selling your chicken for little, and then you're not going to want to be into that business because you realize that you're losing. But if you are the only one in the area, or you have a next person who rear chicken, then there and again, then you might have a better chance of, if for instance, when 10 persons in the area sell the chicken for $200, maybe you could sell the chicken for just, I just say maybe 300 or maybe 250, because there's a demand for the chicken and you are the only person who has the chicken. And if everybody want the chicken and they realize that it's you alone have the chicken, then they're never gonna buy the chicken. So that's why I have sometimes, especially in the Christmas time, when you have persons selling certain things for a certain price, you get it for a certain price because there's a demand at Christmas time for maybe pork or ham. So the ham price I got high. The ham price I got high because less persons producing, and maybe some persons don't have, they have pig, but they don't have any to slaughter at that moment. They don't have any to slaughter at that moment, so you realize that the price for ham, it goes up. So when doing business, you have to find out all these things, right? And the next thing again, theft of farm produce. You don't want to pay their loss. You don't want, it's hard for the farmers, especially when you have to take your money and buy your things them, look after your animal and you crop them, and then when it's ready to, when it comes to perfection, you realize that somebody stole your animal, right? So farmers don't like to go through these things. So they want to know that wherever they are at the time, that they live in a safe environment, they can rear the animal and produce the crop, and at the end of the day, they can get value for their money. Yes, so as I was talking about the soil type, you have to know the soil type. So there are four main types of soil type. You have the sand, the silt, and the sand, silt, clay, and loam. Four main type of soil type. So the sand is the one that has larger, their particles are more larger. So right, you will have a lot of leaching taking place, a lot of erosion and so. But you have some crop like for instance, most of the vegetable crops, they will grow into the sun, right? Like the cucumber and some guava, they'll grow into the sandy soil, right? So the silt is a, I think is a fine, as a finest particle, and it has the finest particles. So you have crops like potato, sugarcane, and beet and bulb. Those crops going into the silt, and you have the clay. The clay soil, the clay soil is very tough, and when it rains, it can be waterlogged, right? Can be waterlogged, and not every crops can stand or withstand water. So you have crops like cabbage and kale, peas and potato that can grow into the clay soil. So like the loam is a mixture of the sand, silt, and clay. So you'll find that most of these crops will grow into this area, into the loam soil, because it's the best soil. It is a mixture of the sand, the silt, and clay. So then again, you as an individual, you have to learn. You have to learn the soil type, so you can know the type of crop to plant and the season when you're supposed to plant the crop, right? And you're supposed to know the soil type so you can know when to plant the crop or to plant the crops. Alright, so sometimes or most of the time when you're doing a business, sometimes you have to say no. Right? You have to say no because sometimes no to sometime your friend, no to party. You have to say no to party, right? Because you can't take your little money that you make from what you just sell and go buy clothes or ear and shoes, because you're not putting back anything into the business so to take out. So that will mash up your business, right? So you have to say no to the going on sometimes. You can't put it off and say, alright, you can't go to this Saturday after you go to next time. So you have to say no to that, right? And sometimes when your friends them come to borrow money, make them say you mean. Cause you have to say no to them, because sometimes when you lend them your money and you want back your money for borrow, you want back your money, you can't even get your money for borrow back. So sometimes you have to say no to these people, right? And also sometimes some persons, they will party and so on, and they will say you, they will ask you if you're not coming, and you say no, and sometimes they will say all right, but they don't understand that it's because you want something out of life, why you decide that you're not going to come with them. They don't understand, because they are about their motive, and you are about your motive, right? So you have to know when to say yes, and you have to know when to say no. Alright, so when doing farming, you have to think about the transport, right? So you have to think about how you can get your crop from the produce, whether if it is livestock or is a crop, from where it is to the market, right? Because some, especially if you milk the cow, right, you can't transport the milk in warm environment, it spoils. Yeah, it will spoil. You have to put it in something cool so that it can remain cool, right? You have to put it in something cool so it can remain cool. So you have to think about transport. And if you're transporting your vegetable, right? You don't want to transport it in a cool area. Some persons, they might sprinkle a little water and the color lure, so just to keep it fresh for it to go to the market. And you have some persons, they will transport if it's not in the morning or in the evening, because that time is more cooler and the plant won't burn up. Even animals too, they will transport the animal in the morning or in the evening, because that time of the day is much cooler and the animal will be able to tolerate it. Especially, you see, the time is hot now. Some animal cannot transport none, or even some crop, it will wilt, or you won't get that kind of benefit out of it by the time it's supposed to reach the place that it's supposed to. It's supposed to, so you have to know more about the transport. I have to know how far the produce is to the market. And sometimes you have to know how to turn your hand to make fashion. Maybe if you're a farmer, a young farmer just coming up, maybe you can't afford to buy the seed tray. You could make your own seed bed, so you can save money right there. So, and when your business is well developed now, at that point now, you can be able to buy your seed tray. Alright, so when doing business, you have to prepare yourself to lose and sometimes to gain, because not every time when you're going to a business you are going to gain, right? Especially when there are droughts. When there is drought, right? Maybe you might not get the kind of outcome from the crop, right? And if your crops are planted in flood prone area, then you realize that when it's hurricane season, then maybe your crops might destroy because of the area that it is in. So you have to know, you have to have backup plan in case you lose in this crop. What is it you're going to do next year? Are you going to continue to do? Are you going to continue to produce? Are you going to move on to something else? So you have to know all of that. So you have to know the type of insects and pests that affect certain crops, and even animal in the pests that affect certain animal, so you can know what to use when these you know when these things start. And also you have to have them at and sometime, because there are other farmers in the area doing certain things when you maybe need it. Maybe it might not be available, and maybe the person that has it is far from where you are, so you won't be able to, maybe for example, borrow. a next farmer thing, if you're following what I'm saying. So sometimes you have to buy your things and put it down for your crops or for your animals, so when you need it, you have it at hand. Right? And also you have to look out for theft of animals, right? Because sometimes have some persons, you know, some persons they're just waiting for the appointed time to come and take your things, you know. So you have to prepare your mind for that. Prepare yourself for the unexpected so you can know what to do, right? When to do it and how to do it, right? And also you have to prepare for spoilage, right? Because sometimes when you produce in excess and you don't have that storage area, the crops can spoil. And even your meat too, when you don't have the storage area for your animals, after you might, slaughter them, you might realize that you don't have the storage. So some persons who maybe rear chicken or any type of meat, some of them they might slaughter based on the order that they get. So that when they get order for certain things, they will they will slaughter the animal that time because they don't have any storage area for it, then they will not slaughter the animal. So you have to know, you have to have storage area. You have to have storage area. You have to have storage area for certain things. And also, so we ask why we don't have more persons doing agriculture. There are a lot of reasons why persons don't do agriculture. Alright. Our foreparents back in the days, they used to work on plantation. So maybe they still see agriculture as slavery, right? So they tell themselves that they don't want to do agriculture anymore because agriculture is slavery, right? And most of our parents are foreparents, right? They used to work on the farm, or even some of them now, they still do work on the farm, and you don't see what is it they are doing because they are not gaining that type of money, you know, to benefit from certain things. So you don't have that type of money. They don't. So when you maybe do a next job, when you might do a next job, right, and you realize you can make certain amount of money in certain amount of year, they can make certain amount of money from this particular, you know. So persons choose not to do agriculture because they just think that it's not beneficial to them. Also, lack of interest, maybe they find interest in other things. They find interest in other things, so they don't think that maybe, oh Lord, they would like to do agriculture. And based on how they hear persons talk about agriculture, they just think that agriculture, oh my Lord, agriculture is a no. So those are some of the reasons for person not doing agriculture, right? Also, when you have lack of knowledge, when you have lack of knowledge on certain things, it kind of hard for you to function because if you don't have prior knowledge about agriculture, then it's not every time you can maybe go to your neighbor to ask them about certain things. Maybe they are not available. Maybe you could call them. Maybe you could call them, but will they always be available? Right? Will they always be available? Right? So maybe they're not always be available. So you have to think about that. And some persons don't have the space, right? And you have to have space to do agriculture. Persons rear animal in house, but it's not ideal to rear animal in house. So if you rear your animal in house, it will kind of be like a kind of waste of time because then again, will you live in the house with the animal? So that's a no-no. So you have to have a space outside where you can rear your animal, right? And to plant your crops. Because if you're doing crops, right, you're gonna have space to plant the crop. The wider the space is, the better it is for you to plant your crop, right? And the more space the crop have, depends on the crop, because some plant they love to run. For example, pumpkin and chocho and melon, and so they like to run. So you have to give these plants spaces where they can run up and down. Right? Some plant they don't really need a lot of space, like maybe the pak choy and lettuce and the cabbage, and so they don't really need a lot of space. They want to be close up so you can get the kind of foliage there. So it all depends on what it is that you are planting right at the moment, so you can get, so depend. And then certain, the crops and the plant, they have requirement spacing for you to give to them. So you as a farmer, you're supposed to know the required amount of spacing that each crops and animal should get. Because for instance, if you're rearing animal and especially now when the time is at, for instance, you're rearing chicken and the space is too small for the chicken, then they are going to trample on each other, and then you're going to have a high mortality. But if then again, chicken doesn't really need lots of space, but I'm talking about the requirements, the amount of spacing that the chicken need. And gone were the days when parents used to rear pigs outside. Now they're putting them in a confined area, because one of the reasons why they put them in a confined area is because the less moving up and down they have to do is the less weight loss. Is the less weight loss they will have. So you have them in a, and also for the chicken, to the less moving up and down they have to do, then they will keep that weight, right? They will keep that weight. So spacing is also, you're supposed to know the spacing. At what spacing you're supposed to plant certain things. Because if you don't know the spacing, then it will affect you, the individual. And also because person being into agriculture, they say that agriculture is this and agriculture is that. So persons will not choose agriculture. But then again, if for instance your parents say doesn't don't choose agriculture, and you decide that you are going to choose agriculture because that is what you like, then you're going to do it. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to feel comfortable with yourself doing whatever it is that you are doing. So to each his own, guys. Guys, I just want to thank you guys for tuning into my live. Right, I normally have my live on Saturdays and Sundays. But this Saturday that went by, I was unable to do my live, so I did it today. And I don't know if I'm going to do any live Saturday coming. I'm not sure as yet. So sometime I don't have the time to do the live, so I'll try next day to do live. I don't think I can do live every day because I have things to do, work to complete, and life goes on. There's a life beyond this, so until you have the time and you say, all right, you're getting this from that or getting that from that, then you will do whatever it is that you'll have to do. But for now, you have to just do you until you find a better way. And don't let anybody discourage you about what you want in life. Whereas if it's something positive and it's something that you can benefit from and other person can benefit from, don't let anybody discourage you. And believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then no one is going to believe in you. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end my life. Take care of yourself and your family and be strong. And in whatever you do, just put the Lord first and have yourself a great day until we meet again.